There is a squirrel in your yard right now that has been waiting for you to leave. Not in the way most people imagine, not nervously, not impatiently, not in any way that resembles the frantic energy you see when they dart across a fence. Quietly, deliberately, with a kind of focused calm that most people who watch squirrels for years never actually notice because by the time it happens, they are already inside. The moment you step back through your door, the yard changes. And what unfolds in the minutes and hours after you disappear is something researchers have only recently begun to document in detail. It is stranger than most people are prepared for. And once you understand it, you will never look at the squirrel sitting on your fence post the same way again. Welcome back to Backyard Wildlife Mind. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe because what you are about to hear will change the way you watch every animal that visits your yard. Today we are going through exactly what squirrels do the moment you leave, what they check, what they change, what they remember, and what they do with the information they have been collecting about you all along. Stay with me from beginning to end, because behavior number 5 is something that took biologists years to believe was happening in ordinary backyards. And the final one, number 7, is the one I think will stay with you long after this video ends. Behavior number 1. They confirm you are actually gone. This is the part most people never see because it happens in the first 60 seconds after the back door closes. A squirrel that was watching you from the oak tree does not immediately drop to the ground and resume foraging. It waits, it holds its position, oriented toward the door, and it watches. Squirrels have documented visual memory for human movement patterns. Research from the University of Exeter on eastern gray squirrel cognition has shown that these animals track not just the presence of a human, but the trajectory and likely return path. A door that closed is not the same as a human that left. The squirrel knows the difference between someone stepping inside to grab something and someone who has genuinely gone in for the afternoon. It watches the windows, it registers whether the interior light changed, it listens for footsteps on a porch. Only after a threshold of stillness has passed, usually between 30 seconds and 2 full minutes, depending on the individual animal and its history with you, does it begin to move again. What looks like a squirrel resuming its day is actually a squirrel completing an assessment. Behavior number 2, they return to locations they avoided while you were there. Every yard has a geography that shifts based on who is in it. Squirrels that feel comfortable around a particular human will still avoid certain behaviors in that human's presence, not because they fear that person, because observation itself changes what they do. The moment you leave, specific locations in your yard become active again. The base of the fence post closest to where you usually stand, the garden bed you walk through most often, the feeder you refill, they will approach it differently when you are gone, spending longer, moving with less vigilance, checking corners of the yard, they scan quickly when you are present. This is not coincidence. Studies on squirrel foraging behavior have documented that these animals maintain parallel mental models of their territory, one for when a known human is present, one for when that human is absent. The yard you leave behind is not the yard they experience while you are in it. It is a different place to them, quieter, more fully theirs. Behavior number 3, they dig up and move caches you watch them bury. If you have ever observed a squirrel burying a nut in your yard, there is a reasonable chance that nut is no longer in that location. Not because another animal found it, because the squirrel moved it after you went inside. This connects to one of the most remarkable cognitive abilities documented in eastern gray squirrels, deceptive caching. Squirrels are acutely aware of who is watching when they bury food. A squirrel that buries a nut in front of a known observer, even a trusted one, will frequently return within minutes of that observer's departure and relocate the cache to a site it is confident was unobserved. What makes this extraordinary is what it requires. The squirrel must remember where it buried the nut. It must remember that you were watching. It must assess whether you are still able to watch. And it must decide whether relocation is worth the energy cost. That chain of reasoning is not instinct. It is working memory, theory of mind, and risk calculation operating simultaneously in an animal that weighs less than a pound. Behavior number 4, they conduct a full patrol of the yard's perimeter. Within the first 10 minutes of your departure, a dominant squirrel in your yaw, usually one that has held the territory longest, will often move through a route that covers the full boundary of the space. Along the fence line, around the base of each tree, across the open grass in a pattern that, if you watched from above, would look almost methodical. This is territorial reassertion. Your presence suppressed certain behaviors and compressed the squirrel's active range slightly, even if you were calm, even if you were trusted. The moment that suppression lifts, the territory needs to be confirmed. Scent marked in places that had gone unmarked. Checked for signs of intrusion from neighboring squirrels who may have tested the edges while a human was present and the dominant animal was holding still. The yard you leave behind goes immediately back to work. Behavior number 5. They adjust their alarm network based on your absence. This is the one that took researchers time to accept. The alarm communication system that squirrels maintain, the calls, the tail flags, the posture signals that ripple through a yard and into the trees beyond, operates differently when a familiar human is present versus absent. When you are in the yard, certain alarm thresholds are suppressed. A squirrel that trusts you will not alarm at your movement the way it alarms at a stranger. But that suppression has a cost. It introduces a kind of signal noise into the network, other squirrels and birds reading the trusted human's calm presence as a data point, adjusting their own vigilance accordingly. The moment you leave, that calibration resets. The alarm network sharpens, thresholds drop back to baseline. The yard becomes, in a measurable acoustic sense, more alert the moment you are no longer in it. Your presence had been quieting something you did not know you were quieting. Behavior number 6, they play. There is no other word for it. Researchers observing squirrel behavior in the absence of humans have documented what can only be described as recreational movement, chasing that serves no territorial or foraging function, tumbling, running routes that go nowhere and return to nowhere. Young squirrels do this most visibly, but adult animals engage in versions of it as well. It does not happen when humans are present, not even trusted ones. The presence of any large animal in the space keeps a certain watchfulness active that makes this kind of movement too costly. When the yard empties, something releases. The squirrel that was sitting carefully on your fence post 20 minutes ago is doing something that looks unmistakably like it is enjoying itself. Behavior number 7, they come back to where you were standing. After you go inside, sometimes minutes later, sometimes longer, a squirrel that knows you will often come to the specific spot in the yard where you were standing, not to forage. There is frequently nothing there. It will sniff the ground where your feet were, sit up and look at the door, then move on. Wildlife researchers studying habituation in gray squirrels have noted this behavior, but have been careful about what conclusions to draw from it. What is documented is this: squirrels track specific humans as meaningful features of their territory, and the locations associated with those humans carry significance that persists after the human departs. What that means in the fullest sense, no one can say with certainty. But if you have ever felt, stepping back outside after an hour, that the yard was different, that the squirrel on the fence seemed to orient toward you with something that felt less like wariness and more like recognition, you were not wrong about what you were sensing. The animal that came to where you were standing did not do it randomly. It did it because you have become, in the small and serious world of a creature that weighs less than a pound, someone worth returning to. Before I go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever gone back outside and noticed a squirrel already watching the door? Tell me about it in the comments. When did you first notice? What was it doing? And if this changed the way you think about the yard waiting just outside your window, share it with someone who would understand. Thank you for being here at Backyard Wildlife Mind. I will see you in the next.